They've come from the four corners of the globe to see them sign on the dotted line. Colombia's government and the FARC rebellion penning a deal this Monday to end the continent's longest-running conflict. Perhaps with it, the end of Che Guevara-style Marxist guerrilla movements in Latin America. We'll see. Perhaps, because first off, Colombians must approve the deal. They vote next Sunday in a referendum. The opposition, led by hawkish former President Alvaro Uribe, thinks President Santos is rewarding war crimes with impunity. The arguments for and against compromise are strong. Then there's the root cause and the effects of the conflict: poverty, the exploitation of peasants. They've often turned to the drug trade. What's the plan on that score? How different for Colombia's 2016 from 1964, when it all began? Today in the France 24 debate, we're wondering if it really is peace at last. And with us, Marcela Herrera, Latin America analyst for risk consultants, Amarante International.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Thanks as well to Luis Rivera, who teaches at the French Political Science Institute, Sciences Po. You research drug policy in Latin America.
Hello, yes. Good evening.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to Mary Anastasio O'Grady of the Wall Street Journal's editorial board, who penned a column on this peace deal for the Journal. Thank you for being with us from New York City.
Good afternoon, good evening.
The France 24 debate, where you can join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter, the hashtag F24debate. Yes, it's all eyes on the Caribbean resort of Cartagena. Everyone from Spain's former king Juan Carlos to Cuban President Raul Castro, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry, they're all on hand for the signing of a deal where witnesses will also include the victims, some of the victims of the six-decade-old conflict, years of negotiating, resulting in a deal where the FARC lays down its weapons in exchange for some political and judicial guarantees. Rudaba Abbas spells it out for us.
It's estimated 220,000 people died in the fighting and millions were displaced. The peace deal will be officially ratified on the 2nd of October, when Colombians vote on it in a referendum. Polls indicate that the public backs the terms of the agreement. The FARC will establish itself as a political party. It will temporarily be given 10 seats in Congress. Land reforms are also included. Loans worth millions of dollars will be used to finance basic services for impoverished rural communities. According to the terms of the ceasefire, up to 7,500 FARC fighters will move out of their jungle and mountain hideouts. They will surrender their arms in special zones set up by the United Nations, which is also helping to monitor the ceasefire. In December last year, the two sides declared the creation of special courts to judge crimes committed during the conflict. Those responsible for massacres, torture and rape could face up to 20 years in prison. But an amnesty will be granted for so-called political crimes. FARC has also agreed to stop drug production in areas that it controls. The Colombian government says it will assist farmers in earning a living if they stop producing illegal crops, such as coca, which is used for making cocaine. But many believe peace with FARC does not necessarily mean an end to violence in Colombia. Paramilitary troops are said to have already taken over some drug trafficking routes. A new challenge for the government, which is the closest ally of the United States and the largest aid recipient in the war on drugs.
All right, there's the nitty-gritty of it. And when this deal became public, Luis Rivera, it was a bit of an eye-opener. Now, some of those staying away, for instance, from this signing ceremony is the head of Human Rights Watch, saying there's a little bit too much when it comes to too much leniency, too much amnesty for so-called political crimes.
That's a criticism of the process, actually, of the agreement. You can say that, but at the same time, you have to propose something for the FARC to really demobilize or really find something interesting in going to the civil way. So it's true that there is an amnesty, but not for crimes and crimes against humanity, not for human, rights violations. Either you will have reduction of the prison time, but you won't have. There will be a judgment and some justice, and the idea of all this judicial system is that the victims can have there is true, and victims could have some reparation. So yes, that's a point of view, but at the same time, they did a good job trying to find a way that will be.
Yeah, because let's take it from the
sides.
top, because there had been contacts made over the years, but the serious negotiations. Stop and start begin in 2009, really, and then in 2000, and then 4 years ago, there's this official open process that begins. Do you think it's gone slower, faster than it should have, or what do you think?
I think it's a good time. Probably it started in 2009, but it really started 4 years ago, and I think it took the time it was necessary for the negotiators to find an agreement. Actually, I don't think you can have these kind of agreements found in one day to another, and we had kind of these also processes before in the past. And for example, the last agreement with the FARC in 2000 from 1998 to 2002, it was it is still open for 4 years and nothing happened at that time. So here you have 4 years, but you have finally an agreement that will solve the problem.
What made it? What made? I'll put it to you, Marcelo Herrera. What made it right? Why was there an agreement now? What made the timing right?
Well, because there was the willing of the FARC and the government to reach an agreement. First of all, in the last failed negotiations during the Pastrana government, the FARC, they didn't have the will to really put down the arms. And also the government today, like the Santos government, he had the...
And you think there really... Sorry, I'm going to interrupt on this. You really think there is the will because the FARC rebellion is spread out over a huge, sprawling area of jungle in Colombia, and the fear many have is that there are local leaders who won't necessarily heed the call.
Well, it's just that no, it's different because the FARC, they are present in all Colombia, but today they don't have the same power that they had in 8 years ago. And also the FARC, the organization of the FARC, they are kind of a vertical organization. So it is, of course, there will be some leaders that will not agree, and they will not agree that they will seek to not put down the weapons, and they will probably continue to operate illegal activities. But there's an estimated that the bulk of the FARC members, they will really...
Why is the FARC weaker than it was 8 years ago?
Because there was a strategy from the government, from the previous government, that was put in 2002, sorry, to really crack down the FARC strongholds. That worked. This strategy was part of the Plan Colombia that helped from the United States, that helped the government and the...
So fighting brought them to the table.
Yes, yes. That's why that's the good moment to really negotiate, because they don't have the same power that they had 8 years ago. So they have an interest in really reaching a peace deal today.
And I would like to complete on this point is that at the same time the Colombia plan, so that was found by the United States, could support this military strategy that the Colombian government had to defeat FARC, and at the same time they improved the judicial system. And so nowadays this is why we can trust in this process and this agreement to bring a new kind of justice.
Mary Anastasio Grady, so now we have a situation where the FARC is weaker and Colombia's institutions are stronger. Do you agree the timing was right for this historic deal?
Well, thank you. I think it's preposterous to suggest that the reason this is happening is because the FARC is weaker than it was 8 years ago. In fact, what happened is that the President Santos, decided he was going to negotiate with them. When he made that announcement, he said that they would not get impunity. And he said there would be a referendum which would go point by point to allow the Colombians to decide on various aspects of the deal whether they should vote on it. A referendum requires a 50% turnout of the country. And you can go down a very long checklist of promises that Santos made to the Colombian people when he announced the negotiations. And by the way, they were going on for almost a year before he announced them. In fact, he told Colombian people all during that time that he would never negotiate with them until they laid down their weapons. And secretly, he was bringing them one by one to Havana to do these negotiations. So there's a very low trust level of the president. He's very unpopular. And
he's very unpopular, but polls suggest that he's going to win that referendum next Sunday.
Yeah, well, I can explain that to you. But when he got to the table, to negotiate, he found that the FARC was not going to give him not even one concession. They have not given one concession. They said from the very beginning, we will not spend one day in jail, and they will not spend one day in jail. They still hold child soldiers, thousands of them, and that's a crime against humanity. If an African dictator does that, the guy is run down by the UN and the human rights organizations. The FARC still has child soldiers. They have billions of dollars in drug trafficking profits, none of which they are going to put up for reparations. So after this is all done, the president's going to turn around and tell law-abiding Colombians that they have to pay higher taxes in order to pay for it. And, the most outrageous
all right, so
thing
explain to us then why the polls suggest the referendum is going to win.
Well, I will explain two things. One, the president is openly buying votes by going to different, and he did this in Barranquilla not too long ago, by going to different areas of the country and telling people, if you vote for this, you're going to get more federal funding or national government funding to your area. Secondly, he talks about it being a completely transparent agreement. How many Colombians do you think have read the 297 pages of details in this, which, by the way, include things like giving the FARC weapons and training in order to enforce their own agreement? These are people who have been indiscriminately killing civilians for years, and now they're all of a sudden going to be given weapons to enforce the agreement. That's a little difficult to accept. And then also, he's had a huge budget where he can run consistent advertising on all the television stations telling people to vote in favor of this agreement, which, as I said, most people will not have read. And he worded the question in such a way that the High Court told him that he couldn't word the question that way, and he worded the question that way anyway.
All right, Luis Rivera. Let me bring in Luis Rivera on this. Your response to this?
I don't agree. I mean, with all these. Yes.
Has the FARC given away nothing?
I don't think so. I mean,
what has the FARC given away?
They are giving away all this power they have. Actually, the FARC is why do you explain that the FARC is still alive today? And it's because they have money and they have a very good hierarchical infrastructure. You can agree or not with the FARC. I don't agree with the FARC, but it's real that they have a really good organization and they have money from drug trafficking. So they are giving away all they have. And today, I don't agree with with the things we are saying, that probably that the people didn't read 300 pages. I mean, this is the role of the media, to make these 300 pages available for people and to be transparent on what they are saying. And the problem with all this campaign against the referendum is that they are saying a lot of things that are not true. For example, they say that the president is buying votes. That's illegal. If there is some proof, we should go to the courts. And the thing is that the court didn't say that he couldn't propose the question of the referendum. He say probably the question is not the best, but he has the capacity to do this. I mean, he's in all his power. So this is not a question of me saying if we have to agree or not with the agreement. It's me saying that you cannot lie on television and you cannot say untrue things, false things on television, because this provokes people like to act in a violent way too.
But how many times has the president said, I mean, you can see the clips where he said, for example, they're saying that they're going to get seats in Congress. Absolutamente falso. And then you go and see that he's giving seats in the Congress. All
right, but those are campaign promises.
Yes,
Yes,
that he made.
that's
So
political.
to accuse me
that's the
or
way
people
political.
who are on the no side of lying, I think is dishonest on your part. They're not
What
lying.
did
He went
President
to
Uribe
Barranquilla
say?
and he told the people in Barranquilla that if they voted yes, he would direct government funds to their community. Now, you
I
can say
encourage
that's
you
not
to go to the
vote-buying.
court with these proposals because that's illegal. I encourage you really to go to the
Well,
court in
I
Colombia.
encourage you to go listen to him in Barranquilla
I'm
and listen
listening
to
to
him
him.
making that statement. He made that statement. There's not a question about that. It's not to say that it's a lie. It's on film.
Very briefly, because we have to go to the break. Marcela Herrera, the agreement as it stands now, is the government caving in?
Sorry?
Is the government caving in to the FARC?
I think that there is a lot of experts say that it's an imperfect agreement, but it's a good agreement for Colombian people if they want to really end up the war with the FARC. So it's an imperfect agreement because there are some issues, as highlighted by Human Rights Watch, regarding impunity. But it's a good agreement.
The least worst is what you're saying. We're going to pick up on this point when we come back. Stay with us. You're watching the France 24 debate.